Hey there! Let's spend the next couple of minutes looking back over the big dev stories of the year and then wrap up with a discussion of what the next year might hold in store for us. So, January started strong with the release of Astro 2.0. Things have advanced quite a bit since then, and the framework is now at version 4. Astro enjoys a dedicated team, a growing community, and promises unique page load performance thanks to its islands architecture. Astro websites have zero client-side JavaScript by default. UI components will be rendered to HTML on the server and then stripped out of all the JavaScript. When interactivity is needed, one of Astro's many UI library integrations can be leveraged to hydrate your static components. Things only got better in the second part of the year for Astro, and I have to mention its new quick integration, which combines the island's architecture with resumability to push performance even further. In February, one of the biggest news stories was the acquisition of Gatsby by Netlify. For those unfamiliar with it, Gatsby is a meta framework which allows you to build web apps with React and employs various strategies to optimize the HTML, CSS and JavaScript bundles sent to the client. Vercel's Next.js is a more popular alternative, but Gatsby is also benefiting from being backed by a big platform as a service now. You probably noticed a trend already. The new direction in the web dev space is to augment UI libraries with server rendering and other capabilities deeply integrated into cloud solutions. This is a major shift when it comes to performance and developer experience, but as you'll see throughout this video, this is not the only big trend change that happened this year. March came with the release of Million.js version 2, and we all learned that a high school student is better at improving React than the actual React team. While the team is focusing on monkey patching the UI library, by employing the server via suspense and server components, Million addresses one of the real flaws of the React framework, the virtual DOM. 2023 is the year when the overhead of the virtual DOM became really obvious, and Million is offering a 1 KB alternative which can make React applications up to 70% faster. In April, Angular announced one of their many recent changes, and, as you'll see later in the video, this update simply marked the beginning of a more important update announced in the second part of the year. Just like many other frameworks, Angular is now allowing you to manage app state via signals. Signals are not a new concept. They were first introduced in the front-end space by Knockout back in 2010 and were made popular by Solid in recent years. Node 20 was also released with a very notable update, a new permission model inspired by the Deno platform. This leads us to May, when Deno KV was released. I believe that Deno is one of the most impactful technologies in 2023. Let me explain why. Imagine a tech solution that lets you build a performant web app, hook it to a reliable REST API, back that API with a scalable database solution that offers real-time capabilities, and then deploy the whole thing to the edge with just a couple of clicks. Sounds too good to be true? Well, it's not. This is what Deno is offering. While it started as a simple JS runtime alternative to Node.js, it quickly evolved into a full-blown platform which can really speed up your development. The JS runtime space is becoming quite crowded, and, as you'll see in a second, another serious competitor to Node and Deno will emerge in September. Another big release in May was Quick.js. Objectively, Quick proposes a truly original idea for the web: resumability, a more efficient, cleaner alternative to the established hydration strategies. In June, we got a Svelte 4 release. While not major, this version paves the way to a pretty big reactivity rework in V5. Svelte runes were announced in the second part of the year, and they just reiterate one of the big takeaways of 2023. Signals are the most efficient way to handle reactivity in front-end frameworks. Runes are an attempt to unify the Svelte reactivity system, but it received mixed feedback, mostly because the new developer experience loses some of the magic that made Svelte interesting and appealing in the first place. This is the perfect context to mention one of Douglas Crockford's blog posts from this year. For a long while, Mr. Crockford believed the DOM to be a poorly designed, poorly implemented, and full of inconsistencies API, and all these pain points had to be hidden by libraries or frameworks. However, in recent years, the browser spent quite a lot of time improving the situation. As a result, it is now recommended to abandon libraries which have grown into bloated platforms and instead use the DOM and plain old JavaScript together. And since we got to the middle of the year, we should address the elephant in the room: the rapid adoption of AI in our daily lives as developers. Depending on who you are talking to, tools like ChatGPT are either an amazing opportunity to be efficient and achieve more in less time, or the end of programming as we know it.
They took our jobs! Yeah, they're down, took our jobs!
Just like every other time, Remember the Web3 blockchain developer craze? Some were eager to identify new opportunities and, for a little while, everyone wanted to become a prompt engineer. In July, the Tailwind community had their first live event. The keynote is worth watching since it goes not only through their plans for the future, but it also contains a good explanation for why Tailwind's architecture might be the best approach when working on large projects. You either love or hate Tailwind CSS, but, regardless of your feelings, I believe there is a lot to learn from the thought process behind using utility classes and Atomic CSS. Supabase hosted their launch week in August, where they presented quite a few new features coming to the platform. Most notably, Supabase goes big in the AI space by offering first-class support for Hugging Face. On top of that, Supabase Studio 3.0 was just released with an AI SQL editor, schema diagrams, and more. In short, this will allow you to work on SQL queries in an AI-assisted manner, enjoying a safer environment and a lot of best practices made available by default. In August, Dino started to hint more to its upcoming 2.0 version. We don't know that much on this topic yet, but the things made public so far are pretty interesting. On one hand, it looks like Dino is shifting towards a package registry similar to NPM, with the team having editorial control over the stuff published there. Of course, the most exciting aspect about V2 is Dino's full interoperability with Node, which will make the space way more competitive moving forward. September was marked by one big event in the JS space, the release of Bun 1.0. In all fairness, the JavaScript space is completely different compared to 15 years ago, when Node.js was first released. We now have yearly new releases of the ECMAScript specification, TypeScript became the norm thanks to the improved developer experience, tools like JSX are present in most web projects these days, and runtimes are forced to become lighter while computing is slowly moving to the edge. Bun is promising a modern alternative to the status quo and has received substantial funding to pursue these efforts. One of the main selling points for Bun is its mind-blowing performance thanks to an architecture implemented from scratch using Zig, JavaScript core, and very efficient system calls under the hood. In October, Lit officially reached version 3.0. The biggest highlights? IE 11 support was finally dropped, and the TC39 standard decorators are now supported. This is also the time when HTMX reached the highest level of popularity in the front-end space. In theory, thanks to HTMX, you can build modern web apps with amazing user experiences without writing a single line of JavaScript. The idea is surprisingly simple. The plain old HTML is enhanced thanks to a few attributes and directives. As a result, DOM elements can both trigger a sync HTTP request to a server and reload parts of the UI when the response is received. For the past couple of years, the Angular team focused on bringing the framework closer to modern standards. All this came to fruition in November when they announced Angular's Renaissance. Yes, the second one. Angular remains one of the most used frameworks, especially in an enterprise setting. This latest version still has a similar dev experience with the Angular released 7 years ago, but it now enjoys major reworks in the reactivity and rendering processes. On top of that, you can opt in into a new templating control flow, signals, and other attractive dev goodies, useful if you want to attract more people into the ecosystem. GitHub's yearly review, The State of the Octoverse, was also released in November. Here are the main takeaways. Developers are building with generative AI in big numbers, developers are operating cloud-native applications at scale, and 2023 saw the largest number of first-time open-source contributors. Switching gears for a second, Microsoft announced they will be spending quite a bit of money to make Rust a first-class language in their engineering systems. This is yet another big step forward for Rust, which is quickly becoming an established language across the whole dev space. December brought other major releases in the Meta framework space and, more notably, another round of improvements to the V8 engine, committing even further to the idea that JS is slowly eating the world. So, on one hand, 2023 is marked by major advancements in AI. The only sane thing devs can do is to integrate these tools into the workflows and products they are building. There are various options out there, all offering seamless SDKs and affordable pricing, so we should really embrace it. What I'm more excited about is the shift towards simplicity and better strategies to build efficient, performant apps for the web. Be it original ideas like Qwik, backend-as-a-service solutions like Supabase, or all-in-one solutions like Dino, it is now easier than ever to build that product you've been dreaming about. If you want to find out more about some of the highlights of this year, you can check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching and see you in 2024.